Okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Jonathan Pan, Technical Evangelist for Bixby. And in this webinar, we're going to cover tips and tricks on capsule approvals. So I think many of you have probably gotten a couple rejection notices. It definitely happens. And hopefully after this webinar, you'll have a better idea of how to, avoid those rejections and then, get your capsules approved very quickly through our approval process. So also be sure to follow me at John without the H on Twitter. I always got to say that. And let's go forward. So my name is Jonathan Pan. I already said that, but I'm a developer evangelist for Bixby, and I'm the winner of the 2019 Internal Hackathon at Samsung. And just one thing about me, I have 4 too many cats. And with me over here is Roger Kibbe. He's the one who hosted the last 2 webinars. Roger, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Hot seats with Jonathan today. So I get to be the side moderator. Yes, I'm a senior developer evangelist for Bixby. I won this similar contest to what you're in last year. It was with the beta version of Bixby. So, and I am a father of 2 teenage daughters, hence I have lots of gray hair. And I'm a UC Berkeley graduate, so I always have to say, go Bears.
All right, that's the infamous Roger Kibbe. Also follow him at Roger Kibbe on Twitter. And the first thing we're going to go over is a deployment checklist that I made for you guys. This is a Google spreadsheet. The tiny URL is right here, tinyurl.com/Bixby checklist. I'm going to just show it to you guys real quick. So,
can you say if you have any questions? Add them to chat.
Oh yeah, if you have any questions, add them to the chat, and also stay tuned because at the end of this webinar, we're going to have a raffle where 2 people are going to win $500. 2 of the people that submitted their capsules and already gotten approved for Bixby DevJam. So if you're one of those lucky people, be sure to stay tuned and see if you won. So anyway, this checklist, there's a required column, which is kind of the bare minimum that you should really check when you're submitting your capsule. I will be going through this in a bit more detail through the presentation, but I just want to show you that this checklist is here. And someone will probably post the URL in the chat at some point during this webinar. So yeah, if you didn't get this, it'll be there somewhere. And let's just get started right off the bat, common rejections. I'm going to start with the metadata because it's typically the easiest thing for developers to, really punch into their capsules and get sorted out. So we've been seeing a lot of capsules come in without the store section in the capsule.bxb. And this is, probably because we may not have adequate warnings in the simulator yet that tells you, hey, you got to have a store section, right? But, that's going to come with some time. But in the meantime, you should absolutely put a store section in your capsule.bxb file. I'm going to show you real quick where that lives with this this capsule that's about cow facts. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. You can see right here, I added a store sections, and you can see the section is in games and fun. The next thing I want to emphasize is what store section does your capsule belong in? And here are all the store sections in the documentation. You can just search store section and you'll find it. But be sure to really try your best to figure out where your capsule belongs. We often reject capsules for trying to put it into a store section that we don't really feel like belongs, or it just doesn't really belong in there. And just as a general guidance rule, if you're making a fact template capsule or a quiz or jokes template capsule, 90% of the time or more, it's going to be in the games and fun section. And we also recommend for ease of approval to just have 1 store section. And if you're absolutely sure it belongs in 2 store sections, you can put 2 store sections in there. But we strongly recommend just putting it in the store section that you feel like it fits best in. The next key that we often see problems with is actually the website URL. And I want to emphasize that this one is optional. So if you don't have a relevant website for your capsule, just don't put anything. Just delete the key value pair. You'll find this one in the capsuleinfo.bxb. So right here, this website URL. I know that the templates start with bixbydevelopers.com, but your capsule is probably not really related to bixbydevelopers.com. So just give that the good old delete, and you'll be good to go. For example, some valid website URLs would be a website URL that relates to you as a developer or to you as a capsule, right? So those types of website URLs will work. Also, make sure your website URL actually works, right? Because like there's been a lot of capsules that come in where the website URLs are broken, and it's one of the only things that is broken, and we have to reject it, and then you have to go through this song and dance all over again. So finally, the icon asset. With the release of templates, I know a lot of people have just been submitting it with the default logo. Don't send us the Bixby logo as your icon asset. Just make some kind of logo yourself, or just grab one from free icons or whatever, and make sure it's a square, preferably in PNG format, and then things will go well there. And your logo lives in the assets images section. So, well, I mean, you could put it just in the assets folder, but right here, you'll see that this is a relative path in the assets folder. So just when you're linking that, you can see that there. And the next thing, dispatch names. This is probably the most common rejection notices revolve around dispatch names. And I can't emphasize this enough. It must work with ASR. Now, fortunately, Bixby Studio offers ways to easily test your ASR with the built-in microphone in the simulator, right? So in this case, let's go to Capsule info. You can see that my dispatch name here is the Book of Cows, right? So you can make sure you test your dispatch name by speaking into the actual simulator itself. So ask the Book of Cows to tell me a fact. And here you can see clearly that the dispatch name was properly picked up. The Book of Cows is right here. Now, if your dispatch name is struggling to be picked up by Bixby's ASR after you talk into the simulator, you should really consider changing your dispatch name to something that works with the ASR. Or else, when we do the capsule review, we do this every single time to test it, and you're likely to get rejected if it doesn't work. Another thing is your dispatch name can't be too generic. So something like fun game, or like cool facts, maybe even something like rad quiz. I don't know, rad quiz is kind of on the fence there, but I think you guys can see a pattern here. If it's something too commonly said, like, hey, let's go and play tic-tac-toe, that's going to be too generic, right? So you typically want 2 words, something slightly unique, at least 2 words, right? And the words like the and a and an, those don't really count towards your word limit. So something like the Book of Cows, Animation Nation, Unofficial Pokedex, Green Planet, What Bin, all these types of things would be very valid and not too generic as dispatch names. And like I said, test it in your computer's microphone. If it doesn't work, it's an automatic rejection. So next thing, dispatch aliases, and I can't emphasize this enough. They are completely optional, and I see a lot of developers, they use them, and I think they don't have they didn't quite understand like what their limited use cases for. And really, this is all you can really use dispatch aliases for, at least almost guaranteed to you or for them to pass. They can be very small variants of your capsule's dispatch name. So let's say I have the Book of Cows. A dispatch alias that would not work for it would be the Encyclopedia for Bovines, right? Because that is something that's completely different in essence from the Book of Cows, right? And even though it means the same thing, but you're replacing the book with encyclopedia as a synonym, you're replacing cows with bovines. That's not really the point of dispatch aliases. However, some people might say the Book of Cow, right? That would be a valid dispatch alias because, in this case, you can use it for plural variants of your dispatch name. And also, if your dispatch name has the word the in it, like the Book of Cows, you can have a dispatch alias as Book of Cows. So for example, a lot of people might say, ask Book of Cows for a fact, right? So if you're unsure about whether or not, your dispatch alias is valid or not, you're just safer off not having any dispatch aliases, because they're completely optional, and they're really only used if you feel like people are going to commonly refer to your capsule, as one of those earlier examples that I gave. And next thing that I wanted to touch on are the hints. So the hints are typically found are always found in a hints.bxb file. And here you can see that they show up in the actual marketplace on your capsules page. So right here you can see these hints are directly translated into the page itself. Ask the unofficial Pokedex to show me a Pikachu, ask to show me a random Pokemon, and which Pokemon does PewDiePie resemble. You can also see the other metadata being reflected from your capsule info file. You can see the icon is right here, and you can see the display name is right here. And you can see my developer name is right there, and the hints, and then finally the description. All that stuff you set in the capsule info.bxb. Now, I did want to actually point one more thing out about the display name. The display name should basically almost always be identical to your dispatch name. So if we go take a look at this Book of Cows example again, you can see how this display name is a perfect match to the dispatch name. And this is to avoid confusion for the users. Like, let's say I have the Encyclopedia Bovine as the display name and the dispatch name as the Book of Cows. Users are probably going to be a little confused as to what they should say to the capsule to get it to start. As with most of these rules, though, there are a few exceptions, but they don't apply to 90% or almost every capsule. Like some branded companies might have a slightly different display name from their dispatch name, but that's a more limited case scenario. So just like the dispatch names, the dispatch aliases, the hints must work with ASR. So keep in mind, this is how a user will actually start your capsule. So if it doesn't work with voice, there's no way they can start your capsule with this hint, right? So let's say I have, ask the Book of Cows to give me facts about bovines and cattle or something like that. ASR is probably going to struggle with that. So you want to keep the hint both simple, concise, and also you want to test it. So going back to the cow example, here we have the hints file. We have with Book of Cows, tell me a fact. And let's just give that a test. With the Book of Cows, give me a fact. And you can already see where's the Book of Cows, but with the Book of Cows, give me a fact. And there you go. So typically, if it works about 75, 80% plus of the time, that's usually good enough. But you want to make sure that each of your hints work, and each of your hints can be reproduced by speaking into the simulator fairly consistently, right? Because this is how users are going to start your capsule. So we also test for small variations of your hints, and it's very helpful if you also test for small variations of your hints when you submit your capsule. And as one example, a small variation of this one would be, with the Book of Cows, show me a fact. So you can see how I replaced tell me a fact with show me a fact, and it worked as expected. Here it is giving us another cow fact, and which ties into the next point, or sorry, to the previous point. The hints must work and return reasonable results. So too often do variations of hints actually break capsules. For example, let's say you change inputs. Let's say instead of a cow fact, I do a cat fact. With the Book of Cows, tell me a cat fact. So here we can see that the capsule actually returns, returns a proper message to tell the user, hey, I don't really know anything about cats, but why don't you ask me about cows instead? And we do test for variations of inputs as well. So right here we've replaced the input, which was cow, with cat. So I highly recommend when you guys test your capsules, if you have inputs in your hints, always test them. Always test what happens if you kind of give an input that your capsule may not understand, and which ties into the fact that you actually need a certain amount of reasonable error handling, at least when it comes to the hints. because these hints are what users are going to say, and we want the users to have a good experience when they interact with your capsule. So the next topic are common UI and UX rejections. And we're going to start with the dialogue. I've seen a lot of capsules that often return, here's what I found, here's what I found, here's what I found. And you can clearly tell that that would be a very tedious experience for the user. And just to give one example, I have a capsule here. So this one just shows you some GIFs. And you can see here that it's showing some kittens, and it says, here's what I found. If you click on one, it says, here's what I found as well. And there's a small bug right now that'll be gone eventually, but yeah. And you could do anything. You could do cats. It'll say, here's what I found. You can do dogs. It'll say, here's what I found. And you can start to see that this would be a very tedious experience for the user as they use your capsule and stuff. So that's why we often reject capsules that use here's what I found far too often. And this next one ties into both error handling and also default messages for input views. So let's say I tell GIF Finder to start without providing it a search term. So here it says I need a search to continue. Now this would definitely be a fail condition because right now the user has no idea what to do, right? So in order to fix something like this, I'll just show you real quick. We can add an input view. So an input view will then prompt the user for a search term like this. However, it's still saying I need a search to continue. And this would also still be a fail in this situation. So you want to add an actual dialogue or a message to this to prompt the user into being a little bit more clear as to what the user should provide instead of just a search. Oh, okay, so yeah. What would you like to see GIFs of? And then, we've added a message here that overwrites the default message. I need a blank variable to continue. And just some general best practices that we do see here and there. Not always, but we do see it. Don't repeat the dialogue in both the dialogue and the view. The users typically don't need to see the same message twice in quick succession. And also, general best practice, if you put something in the dialogue, you should read what it says in the dialogue. Now, there are situations where the dialogue doesn't have to match what's being read, but if you want to be safe, you want it to match the dialogue up top. So the next thing that we see a lot are tappable components being used as not tappable components. And tappable components in Bixby are these components with a light box around them. So you can see here that it's got this kind of rectangular shape with these rounded edges, and it looks like something you can tap on. And in this case, this is a clear example of what you would want to use these tappable components for. You can see click me to play again. It's very clear that if I tap on that thing, I'll play another game, right? And then with this one at the bottom, click me for a random quiz. It's very clear if you tap on that, it'll give you a random quiz. But a lot of people use it for the UI elements of having a more distinct component within your rest of your components. But unfortunately, as of now, that's a rejection. So you can't use these tappable components just as simple UI components. And yeah, so these are cell cards and other things like compound cards, map cards, and a bunch of other cards. They're expected to be tapped because they have the light box around them. And the rest of it, you can see, they don't have the light boxes around these components. You can't tap on them, and it's very clear you can't tap on them. And also the latter is true too. If you make one of these components that don't have light boxes tappable, they either have to be very specific components that have that function, or we're going to fail it, right? Because if you can tap on this and it does something, that's going to be pretty confusing to the user. Oh yeah, so before we hop to the last, or that YouTube slide, I did want to show you one example of the tappable components elements. So here, if we go to a singular GIF, and here you can see that I have uploaded by whoever uploaded this and the source as they look tappable. But if I'm clicking right now, and you can see how they don't do anything, right? So it's actually better to just convert them into H boxes in this case, right? So that way you can indicate that you're trying to display information to the user, but not have it be tappable by the user. And this is just another H box here with additional stuff that's also not tappable. And finally, this is one of the only other elements that I mentioned that you can actually click on that doesn't have a light box that does something. And if you're trying to punch out of your capsule, like let's say you want to show the source to something or whatever like that, you should use an attribution link. So we've seen people use these tappable components to punch out of their capsule just to go to the browser. So if I click on this, you can see it takes me to Jiffy, and it shows the source link for this cat GIF, right? But we see people often use these tappable components, and that's not their intended use. And you should always stick with an attribution link if you're trying to punch out, if you need to do that in your capsule. So okay, and I've given a very quick summary of the terms and stuff, or sorry, the conditions of which your capsule can be rejected in this approval checklist. And I'm just going to scan this real quick, and you can see here that we've covered the dispatch name, we covered the display name, developer name, icon asset. Oh, the description, I just wanted to mention, the description has to kind of accurately summarize your capsule. That should be obvious. You don't want a description to be completely misleading. I highlighted the ones that people often fail with. So right here, for example, you can see the dispatch name must work with ASR. Like I said, you should test it. Can't be too generic. So this one, the dispatch name must be unique. Now, this one's actually a little bit difficult for third-party developers to really confirm. But if you do have access to the Bixby marketplace, you should search your dispatch name in the marketplace, and you're likely to find whether or not a capsule has already taken it. So as of right now, we don't have any external tools for you to check. But so that's why you might have to get on the marketplace or just cross your fingers and hope. But right now, not a lot of dispatch names are taken. So your dispatch name is very likely to not be taken. And here, dispatch name must be nearly identical to display name. This is another interesting one, is avoid using homophones. So those are words that sound, those are two words that sound the exact same. Like, for example, I can't really think of one right now off the top of my head, but there's plenty of words that sound the exact same, and they're spelled differently. And the reason why is because we typically, the ASR sometimes evolves and stuff. Maybe today this version of the word might work, and then tomorrow, or after another big ASR patch, they realize, okay, in conjunction with these words, that term isn't commonly used. So it might switch here and there. And also, we don't recommend using a dispatch alias to fix ASR issues, right? So you can't really just put all the homophones as dispatch aliases, which some people might try. So dispatch aliases, we covered that, and I just wanted to kind of reemphasize that they are completely optional. That's why this box with required is not checked. Use them only if you feel like you really need them, or you're really confident that your dispatch alias is fine. Website URL, terms, URL, privacy policy URL, all optional. If you feel like you need them, include them. Privacy policy is needed if you are collecting user profile data, just for some of you that might be building more advanced capsules and template capsules. And I also need to mention search keywords. They have to be relevant. They're found in capsule, your capsule info file. Hints. Let's see. Did we cover everything here? Oh yeah. One last thing about hints. Please make sure there are no spelling or grammar mistakes in your hints. It's the first thing that users see when they interact with your capsule. So you don't want the first thing they see to be a bunch of spelling errors. And the next thing, UI UX. This is a fairly uncommon thing, but don't introduce Bixby as Siri or even like your personal assistant like Bob or Jimmy or whatever, right? Bixby's Bixby, and that's why we have this we have that rule. And right here, just the dialog things that I talked about earlier, all the default stuff, tappable components, must be tappable, punch out links. And this one is actually interesting. List views, input views, and prompts. Please make them work with voice. You do need to add additional training typically for input views to make them work with voice. There is an input view tutorial right here on the Bixby Developers YouTube channel. You can see right here, input view tutorial if you do struggle with that. And finally, some miscellaneous stuff. Your capsule can be exceedingly slow. Loading, with variable names, like, when those pop up, they don't look great, but we don't often fail for that, but it's a best practices thing. Spelling and grammar, unless it's like throughout the rest of the capsule, I get it, like, you might have some spelling errors that happens. If it's horrific throughout, it's like all misspellings, all terrible grammar, we might fail your capsule for that. And keep your capsule like in its lane, right? You don't want your capsule to tell the weather and then book you restaurants, right? That's not really, we want each capsule to have its own identity and to do one thing and to do one thing good. Conversation drivers, not too many. User profile access, this is actually a very niche thing. I haven't seen this happen yet, but just in case someone does incorporate it, user profile access don't use with guest access. That means that, other people that use your Bixby could have access to various user profile data, which is not good. And sample code. So the sample code in this case is referencing the code on our GitHub, Bixby Developers GitHub. Unlike Alexa, where you can copy and paste space facts and submit it, we don't allow that. So if you copy and paste the sample code from our GitHub and submit it to us, we're going to have to reject it. But that's the thing, is that you can use the design patterns there and just make sure to provide your own custom content. You can really focus on the content if you don't really want to figure out all the plumbing that the sample code provides. And finally, fact templates and joke template capsules, they need at least 10 facts with images or 20 facts without images. So, and let me actually make that correction right now. It's without images. And for a quiz template capsule, they need to have at least 10 questions. So we do encourage you guys to use the template capsules. That's why they're there. They're to make your job making capsules a lot easier. But we do have a minimum content quantity when it comes to those capsules. So yeah, and then the last thing, obviously you have to submit your capsule. That goes without saying. And all this stuff is in this playlist at our YouTube channel. So here you can see that I've basically given a summary of all these, and these go more in depth with more examples. So in case you have any additional misunderstandings or you're not sure about something, feel free to watch these or ask during this webinar, which we'll get to Q&A shortly. And for this one, if you don't know how to submit your capsule, this will walk you through step by step how to submit your capsule, the Bixby Capsule Approval Process Part 1. And yeah, that's the URL for our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/c/Bixby Developers. I highly recommend subscribing, checking it out. Roger's made some great videos. I've made some videos for it. And, it's going to be where we keep posting all this content for you guys, along with this webinar. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have a bit more clarity on, the capsule approval process and how, hopefully you can avoid potential rejections or, just get yourself approved just fast and quickly. So, yeah, now I'm going to open it up to questions to Q&A.
All right. So first question is about the icon. Why does it have to be PNG for the icon? Bixby renders JPEG just fine. Yeah, so the PNG thing is just a recommendation. There are a few formats that you can use. You can use, I believe, JPEG. And I think the documentation lists what types of files you can use. But the most consistent thing that we've seen with no rejections are PNG files. So that's why I just recommend those. But yeah, I think JPEGs work. Yeah. Okay. So the next question is the review process done in an actual real device? Or does the review team only use the simulator? So the review team actually does both. We start the review process with the simulator where we do a lot of the ASR testing, test the functionality,
check the metadata, and stuff like that. Then we do test all the functionality, especially the hints, on the simulator. On device. So it is tested on both. Oh yeah, and if you do have a Samsung device, we recommend you to test it both on the simulator and on your device.
Okay, next question. Will there be a replay of this webinar?
Yeah, so it'll be on our YouTube channel /C/Bixby developers. I'm gonna post this like probably a couple hours after this webinar ends. So yeah, it'll be there.
Awesome. Okay, in an earlier webinar, it was mentioned that the approval process was taking about 7 days right now. Is this still the case, or has the time gone down?
So lately, in the last few weeks, we've been really prioritizing DevJam capsules in terms of the review process, and just all capsules, BPDs, any of them. And lately, for some people, for some capsules, it's been as short as 1 day. For others, it's been, maybe 3 days or so. But we try to keep it as low as we can. And, there's also obviously correlated with volume too. If we get a lot of capsules, it's going to take us a little longer. But we say 7 days to give us some leeway in terms of how much time we're allowed to kind of provide you guys that feedback. For now, though, if you submit them earlier and stuff, you're probably going to get it reviewed pretty quickly.
Okay, so next question is, how can I check ASR if I don't have a Samsung phone?
So hopefully, I did give some demos on the simulator, and I'll share my screen again real quick just to do it again real quick. Here, we'll just hop to the simulator. There's this little, I'll hop to the CalFax capsule as well. So here, there's a little microphone icon. You can click and hold it on your simulator and speak into your computer's microphone. So with the Book of Cows, show me a cow fact. Oops, okay. With the Book of Cows, show me a cow fact. And there you go. So strongly recommend to use the simulator's built-in microphone functionality to test your ASR. Just make sure you click and hold and articulate into your computer speaker to do so.
Okay. Sorry, questions are coming fast and furious. I'm trying to keep up with them. Okay. Good job, guys. Bring them on. Do I need to create training for every variation of hints?
So that's kind of a tricky question when it comes to the number of trainings needed. It's often good to train at least probably 3 to 5 variations of a hint, I would suggest. But there's no magic number. I just suggest testing it in the simulator, and if a specific variation of a hint that you tried doesn't work, add a training for it, right?
Can I interject here? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We get all kinds of capsules that are overtrained.
That's true too, yeah.
I would say enter the minimum amount of training that you think will work. The NLU is very good at recognizing some variations, so try it before you enter too much training.
Yeah.
There. Overtraining can confuse the natural language engine, and you get less. You think you're going to get it better, you're going to make it worse. So just try to put the minimum out in there and see if it works.
And yeah, I agree almost entirely with Roger there. So you can either go one way or the other, right? So typically if you have less trainings, you stick with less trainings. But some capsules that have like a lot of different types of commands and stuff, you're going to need a lot of trainings, right? So that's why this question is a little tricky. But if you have a simple capsule, Roger's completely right. Less trainings, the better. Bixby's NLU will probably handle most of it for you.
Okay. How do you generate the dialogue when the user asks for cats versus cows?
Okay, so that goes into the Bixby. I always forget the exact term for this, but it goes into the way that you reference variables here. So right here, here's a giant dialog block. You can see, oh yeah, let me share my screen real quick, actually. Share. But here you can see this syntax right here, #value action.search. And this will refer to whatever the user searched for. So let's say the cat or the cow, for example. And just to give another quick example, in the in this, in the cow example, you can see this syntax is here as well. You have the hashtag, curly brackets, value, search term. Probably one of the moderators can post the link to the documentation for this syntax. But yes, that's how you refer to the variables in your capsules.
Perfect. All right. Next one is, when using the simulator, should I be using the dispatch phrase too? E.g., should I say, tell me a fact, or with the book of cows, tell me a fact?
So
actually, I'm also unsure if I should include the dispatch phrase portion in my NL training.
So in the NL training, no, don't include your dispatch phrase. Now with the recent update, the simulator interprets the full dispatch phrase as, correctly, as if it's the same on device. So in other words, it'll parse out the with the book of cows and then toss the capsule, just show me a fact. So what I'm saying is, yes, test the entire dispatch phrase in your capsule, and also test just the portion that goes to your capsule, tell me a fact. Because when a user is locked into your capsule or is using your capsule, they can just say, tell me a fact, and your capsule should tell them a fact. So, you should test both, but absolutely test the full dispatch phrase, because otherwise you have no idea if your hint is going to work with ASR, unless you say the whole thing. So yeah, test the whole thing. And don't train the whole phrase.
Okay. The checklist mentions to search the marketplace for dispatch names that already exist and to ensure we use a unique name. Is there a way to do this on the web and not the mobile app, since the web would be faster?
Yeah, so unfortunately, as of today, there is no web resource to search for your dispatch names. Right now, you would have to have a Bixby enabled device. We're hoping to change that, but no promises from me at least.
So we're actually building so I'm going to interject.
Okay. Yeah.
We have an internal who's building a capsule that lets you ask if a dispatch name is available. I will tell you, it's not 100% up to date because there's a little bit of a manual process updating it. But that way you could just ask Bixby, what was your capsule name? Cat facts?
Book of
cats available? And it would tell you that.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's a little easier than searching through the marketplace to find all of them.
Yeah, and we are aware that it leads to the same problem of not being able to search for your dispatch name without Bixby. So, yeah.
Okay. Next question is there a doc that has image size recommendations?
Not that I'm aware of, but, if you've done any type of web development or anything like that, typically the smaller the image size, the better, and the higher the resolution, the better. So, there's always that trade-off when it comes to image processing and stuff. JPEGs are smaller, PNGs are a little bigger, but they have transparency. So just try to keep them small. People are on their mobile data and stuff. So yeah, keep the images small.
I'm going to just interject and say, because I did web development for 20 years before voice. Think of it as similar to web. People may be on mobile using Bixby, so you want to optimize your image. I'll give a call out for a website that is also my favorite image optimizer. It's called tinypng.com, and it optimizes JPEGs and PNGs, often dramatically, and it makes a difference. It's snappier. It comes on the screen quicker.
Yeah.
You can use some of the best practices for web for image size and optimization. As far as the image size we recommend, it scales to that. I think we probably are overdue on something that would show, here's what would look good across all the devices now that you can develop on everything from a watch to a TV and everything in between. So great suggestion. We're going to have to add that to the docs. There. All right. And I talk and I lose my place. Here it is.
Next question.
Is it required to have other view components if our main interaction is dialogue with the user?
So no, it's not required. Like we have various capsules on the marketplace that just have a dialogue, and that's fine, So yeah, you can just have a dialogue only.
For input.
For input?
Input, Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, so if we're talking about the result view, as Roger was mentioning, for the inputs, you do need a view. So let's say you have an input view collecting something from the user, then you do need a view for that. But if what you're returning at the end is just a dialogue, that's fine.
Okay. If I want to replace existing tappable components with an HBox, do you have some sample template code so that non-tappable will match the card format?
Okay, so I don't have a direct translation for that. I don't believe we have sample code that actually covers that specifically. So actually, it'd be great if you asked this question on Stack Overflow and provide the code snippet of your card. And then, one of us can go in there and, throw an HBox in there for you. So yeah, just chuck it there and, we'll answer it.
Well, this was answered in the chat. So is there some boilerplate copyright or privacy policy that I can use? And someone in the chat suggested www.freeprivacypolicy.com. We've seen a couple capsules that use that. Absolutely. So remember, you need a privacy policy if you request permissions to the user's data. I'm forgetting the exact tag.
User profile access.
User profile access.
Yeah.
See, Jonathan knows this much better than I do. So that's the reason why you need a privacy policy. I'm going to say personally, I think it's good to always have it. It kind of covers you a little bit legally, but it is up to you if you're not using that tag, whether you want that for your capsule. Someone asked, where can we access this checklist?
So the checklist, I'll post the tiny URL in here right now. Tiny URL. Okay, so yeah, I'll post it in the chat. Checklist. Okay, hopefully I didn't type that incorrectly, but that should be it. And also, there's a link to it on our DevJam site as well. And yeah, so there you go.
Okay. If I submit and get rejected, will the second round of review be quicker?
Usually, yes, but that's not a guarantee. So yeah, I mean, we also highly recommend you to add a note when you submit your capsule. So when you're submitting your capsule, and let's say you just changed the dispatch name to whatever we recommended or something, make a note of that. That way the reviewer can really isolate the changes that you made, and they don't have to go through the whole capsule as thoroughly, and really help speed up the process.
Okay. Is there a similar policy guideline for Bixby capsules as there is for Alexa? So it's a link to Alexa's documentation around submitting a capsule and what you need to do.
Okay, so yeah, we do have the checklist that was posted in the chat, and also we're updating the documentation as well, so that'll be up to date pretty soon as well. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
If I can catch up with your questions, I'll go find the link, but there is something in the documentation afterwards that we'll do. And any questions that we don't answer, or we don't fully answer, you should go to the Slack channel. There's a Slack channel for Bixby DevJam you should sign up for. I'll link, as soon as I can, I'll put that in the chat as well, how to sign up for Slack there. Do you think it is realistic for non-developer friends to be able to submit a 10-quiz capsule using the template?
Yes, absolutely. So speaking of which, hopefully by end of day today, I'm making a video on how to take a fact template capsule to the marketplace. And I show exactly every step that I do to make that happen. So you can have them watch the video. They can do the facts template, the quiz template, almost very, very similar in terms of the amount of additional stuff you have to do after the wizard. So I would say yes to that question.
Okay. How do we specify the capsule is submitted for DevJam?
So that's actually a good question. David, do you have a good answer for that?
Tag it DevJam.
Tag it.
Tag it DevJam.
Yeah,
That's
pound
that's
DevJam.
Okay, so
hashtag.
Right.
DevJam.
When you're submitting the capsule and the notes to developers, add hashtag DevJam. And
But
then,
that doesn't make you automatically eligible for DevJam. You have to go to bixbydevjam.com and register there, because we're going to look at those and then match us up to the capsules. And you definitely should use the same. You need to use the same email you sign up at Bixby DevJam as you use to when you submit your capsule, because we will match those based on emails. It's the only way to match the registrations.
Yeah.
Okay. If a review takes longer than 7 days, where can we flag it? Is there a support team for review?
Yes. So you can hop into the Slack channel. We are there. So Roger, myself, and some other Bixby team members are there. You can ping us directly and be like, hey, why is my capsule taking too long? Heck, you can even tweet at me. I'll probably catch it and then see what's going on with it. So yeah. Just try to reach out to us individually for now.
All right. Next question. Can I submit my capsule on November 8th? I think they mean December 8th. And expect it to make it in, because it sounds like 7-day approval requires me to sit by November 2nd.
December 2nd. So yeah,
December 2nd, sorry.
I highly recommend to submit your capsule by December 2nd. And do keep in mind that it may get rejected. So, try your best to follow what I've taught you guys today to avoid rejections. But yes, give us a week, and we will be reviewing capsules nonstop probably at the end stretch. But there's no guarantee that we can approve it in time if you submit it by December 8th. So yeah.
How many capsules are right now submitted to Bixby DevJam?
Yeah, so I'm actually not entirely sure this number, but if I had to estimate, I would say between 50 and 60 are close to qualifying for the $300 prize. So, that number is closing in, and I strongly recommend you guys hop on it, build some capsules.
Yeah, over the last week, ever since SDC, the volume has gone up dramatically. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, definitely time to get your capsules in.
Yeah.
Because that's going to it's closing pretty. It was a little slow, and then SDC happened, and we've been getting a bunch. And there's quite a backlog of reviews right now. So, get them in.
Yeah.
Okay, this looks like pretty. I am porting an Alexa skill which speaks a story. Sometimes it asks the user a question like, do you understand that? Okay, using, this is all Alexa stuff. Should end session flag to keep the microphone on. How do I do that in Bixby?
Okay.
There's an API call in the JavaScript code that returns that flag.
So this is a pretty specific question. I highly recommend you to take this to the Slack channel. Right, and actually, Roger happens to be an Alexa expert as well. But we can provide you better hands-on support there versus like a channel like this. So yeah, take it there. We'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little more nuance here, but fundamentally, there's an input view and a result view. And an input view is expecting user input. So it's the equivalent of, and he said I'm Alexa expert, but I'm a little rusty. But yeah, the equivalent of saying keep the microphone on, or there's another way of doing that. And a result view would typically be the end of the session. Although if you add something called a conversation driver, you'll still stay in session. So there's a little bit of a nuance in Bixby. But yeah, please ask that question. It's hard to answer. Yeah. That's a great question. Hard to answer succinctly in a webinar,
right? But
ask it and we'll give you a much better answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that the audio SSML tag is fairly new, but right now my previous working audio files are no longer working without any changes on my part. The simulator is throwing a TTS fail 7000 error. It says there is a problem with the text-to-speech service. What might cause this?
So, unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you for this. I also ran into the same problem. I know Platform is working to resolve it. Yeah, so it might be the file format, something changed. I'd say
90% sure that's the file format is the wave file format is incorrect.
Yeah. So
it's
maybe,
a bad error message. We gotta fix that.
Maybe try converting it again with some kind of or
Yeah. Why am I brain farting on that? I don't like FFmpeg. There's an audio. Audacity. Audacity is a great tool that you should definitely use and download and use to convert. It's a GUI instead of on the command line, so it may or may not work better for you, but I find it works a lot better for me.
Yeah.
Next question is, how do I add different Bixby voices in my capsule?
So this is an interesting one. It's on the documentation somewhere. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But it uses similar tags. It uses SSML syntax. Now let's see if I can find it. Using SSML. Okay. Bixby voices. Here it is. So, okay. Here's the documentation to it.
You need to share your screen.
Oh, no. I just posted it in the chat. But, yeah, I can share the screen. Yeah, I'll show you guys real quick. So here's the documentation for it. You can see speak. The French word for cat is, and then the lang XML lang equals French. Voice equals MO1, which is right here. MO1. That's actually, or this MO1. Oh, I see. Okay, so this profile. Oh, no, that's right here. This voice, Valentine, MO1 for French. So yeah, this is the syntax for it, and you should put it in the speech key instead of the template key, and then it should read out as a different voice in Bixby. So yeah.
All right, awesome. How do you submit a capsule into the competition?
Okay, so first you have to sign up for your Bixby developers account. Then you have to create your team, namespace, stuff like that. Then you have to make the capsule, submit it in the IDE. And then when you submit it, finally in the browser, you have to tag it #DevJam as you submit it. So I strongly recommend this video, which I will share or show you, for how to submit a Bixby capsule. So this video right here, I'll just post a link to it. Let's see, Bixby capsule. Yeah. So this one, if you just follow the steps in here, you should be able to figure out how to submit your capsule. Oh wait, I gotta stop sharing to share the link. And so after, make sure you're also signed up at the bixbydevjam.com as well. And then go through that to submit your capsule. And then, we should see it, and it should be part of the DevJam competition.
Okay. This isn't really a question, but I'm going to amplify it because I think it's really good. Just developer, you got to look for those the ID's advice in getting rid of red warnings. Those are telling you something's wrong. So look for red warnings because you won't be able to submit with them. So great advice. Yeah. Can I submit multiple capsules at the same time?
So yes, you can. So yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. You can submit multiple capsules at the same time. Yeah.
So I'm gonna caveat that and say you can, but for right now we prefer, because we have a challenge in our. Let's just be honest, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
There's a challenge in the process when you submit multiple at the time that might slow things down. Better to submit them separately. There, it's just a few extra clicks to do that, and it'll make things go a little faster. It's our internal problem, but just making it easier and quicker and faster to get approved for that $300 Samsung store credit.
Yeah. So just submit them one at a time. Yeah, that'd be.
Is there a way that I can check to see that my approved capsule is part of the DevJam contest?
So, I guess if it's in the time frame and you've signed up for Bixby DevJam, then you should be good. In terms of actually checking, you could probably ask one of us in the Slack channel if you're really unsure. So yeah.
And it looks like I have a message from the contest guru. Starting next week, we'll start giving out the $300 store credits.
Oh.
So that can be considered a notification of participation in DevJam. So starting next week, we'll start giving you out those $300 store credits.
That's awesome. Okay.
So good times. All right. Okay. So somebody is suggesting that I'm just going to use Jovo to convert to Alexa-friendly MP3. So Jovo, I don't know their website, but great framework, by the way. And then use Audacity to convert to Wave. So that's some good advice there. There's some other things about Audacity in here. Maybe we'll share some tips and tricks about Audacity to the Slack channel. All right. What if you just submitted a capsule but didn't tag it with hashtag Bixby DevJam?
It's fine. You know, it's in the right time period. You're signed up for Bixby DevJam. We'll catch it. You know. Yeah.
Can you have multiple in review at the same time?
Yes. Yes, you can. As many as you want.
Oh, this is a good one. To launch your capsule with just its name, do you need a training entry for it?
Okay, so this one actually tags into one of the new features that was, let's see, just its name. So does the default action now work?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll go ahead now. Yeah. So if you, it's default action, you add to
the capsule.bxb.
Capsule.bxb.
Yeah.
My memory, coming off my memory of just doing this. And then you can say something like, start capsule name.
Yeah.
So if you don't give it any phrase afterwards, it'll do that. There's several patterns there. If they're not, I know they were going to update the docs and include those.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we'll have to add those to the to Slack channel, a list of those. But yeah, we're super useful for things like games, where it's not obvious that you want to do anything other than start the game. Okay. What kinds of templates will you be adding?
As of right now, I'm not entirely sure. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, we have what's there, right?
Yeah.
Quiz, joke, fact,
CSV
upload, which I think is the coolest. What's it called? It's called search
and then the podcast one.
And the podcast one. Yeah. So yeah, more. But hey, you guys, if you guys have ideas for templates that we should add, please definitely share them. Love to hear about those.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
All right, there are a few minutes left, and what you don't
we have the raffle.
Ooh,
yes,
we're gonna do a raffle. I'm gonna turn it over.
David's favorite part.
So I'm gonna turn it over to the raffle DJ.
Yes. Hey, what's up, Bixby world? I see a lot of Bixby Premier developers on the thread. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate all you developers. And I know everyone's been waiting for the raffle. We're going to give out 2 raffles this webinar. That's $2 $500 for anyone that's been participating in DevJam. So like Jonathan has mentioned, we also have up at the count about 40 to 60 different capsules that have been submitted and approved. But this means that there's a lot more capsules that can be qualified for the $300 Samsung store credit. So all of you guys, I mean, my strategy would be is to get as many capsules that I think that I can push over the line, so you can get up to 4 different capsules approved and get $1,200 of Samsung store credit. And then I'd probably strategize on actually building something really cool for the contest. But just like Jonathan mentioned, it's very, very important that you guys start thinking about submitting earlier than later, because we're going to probably get a flood of capsules around the early December timeframe. And it's going to flood, and it'll be very difficult to approve. So with that being said, we're going to start the raffle out. I also want to give a shout out, Jeff Wong, our partner engineer. He's back there, running around like crazy, making this all happen. Sarah Park, who you interface with for the Bixby Premier Developer Program. She's been very helpful to bring some of you guys into the fold. So without further ado, we're going to start the first drawing, and we're going to do it with Bixby.
So there's 17 entries?
There's 17 entries, and from those 17 entries, we're going to be calling out a number. So from those 17 entries, we listed from 1 to 17 the approved capsules, and now we're going to ask Bixby for a number, and that number will equate to a capsule that's been approved. So if you're ready, I'm going to ask Bixby to pick a number for me. Bixby, pick a number between 1 and 17.
Processing some equations. Okay, your number is 11.
All right.
Ryan Jordan, LC Publishing.
Ryan Jordan, Ryan, the maker of Dark Citadel.
So it's for Life Hack of the Day.
Oh,
Actually.
for Life Hack of the Day, but the creator of Dark Citadel. Fantastic. Right on, Ryan. I don't know if he's on, I don't think he's on the thread, but he's won. All right. So the second one, we're now going to pick for the second prize. Pick a number between 1 and 17.
Running some quick calculations. Drum roll, please. Your number is 17.
All right, number 17.
Rob O'Connor.
Rob
For
O'Connor
Food Check.
for Food Check. Rob, congratulations, Rob. Oh, and Ryan is here. Sweet. Hey, congratulations. But guess what, Bixby World? New raffle next week. So all of you that didn't get to win this week, don't worry. You're in the runner-up. You're in the runner-up for next week for a $500 big bounty. So get those capsules in. Please follow us and please follow closely on Slack. So I'm going to leave it back to Jonathan.
I was going to screen share my.
Oh yeah. Hang on, I think Roger wants to.
I'm going to show you one more, a little link to the Slack channel if you haven't signed up. So let me.
All right.
Let me go and share. Are you sharing?
No, I'm not sharing. No, just click share.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
This darn newfangled technology.
Yeah.
How's it work all? All right, here you guys go. Hopefully, let me get this out of the way. You can see, and I wanted to highlight this because we're going to answer some of the questions here. So if you haven't signed, if you haven't signed up for our Slack channel, bixbydevs.slack.com, and you can sign up at bit.ly/Bixby Dev Slack. And so that's where we'll answer any additional questions or clarifications. There was a few that we needed to clarify there. We may ask you to post your technical questions to Stack Overflow because then we can share it with the entire technology community. But and please use the Slack to ask questions. In Stack Overflow, it'll ask technology questions. You know, part of my and Jonathan's job is to get third-party developers building for Bixby. So make us work hard. It's good for us.
Yeah, just give us the more questions, the better, right? You know. And congratulations, Ryan, Rob. I see you two are in the chat. Pretty awesome. You guys won, and got to see David announce that live. So that's pretty awesome. And I think we're pretty much done now, right?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. It was really great having you guys here, and hopefully you guys join us for the future webinars.